A very big topic over the past year or 2 years has been about the slow decline of the event that is known as E3. Now, we all love E3. It's like a second Christmas. It's like this beautiful communal time where we all get to talk about video games and watch video game conferences. It's like one of the few times that I actually feel kind of unified with all of my video game quote-unquote brethren, if that makes sense. But it is this really nice time where everyone kind of comes together, kind of like this second Christmas. We all love to watch video game trailers. And people say it's not like Christmas because you get presents at Christmas, you don't get presents here, you get like advertisements. But I think that Christmas is more than just presents. It's about that communal time that you have with your family. And in a way, this kind of feels that way. I get together with my friends. I get together with some viewers. We talk about E3. We react to E3. We talk about it for hours on end. And in a way, it kind of is like Christmas in a lot of ways. But I think it's important to talk about it, even though it's kind of sad, to talk about the decline of quality in E3. Now, I'm not here to say that E3 is going to die. I feel like that's a very silly thing to bring up because nobody knows where an event might be in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. It might be gone, it might be the biggest thing ever, but we're going to have to see. But one thing I think that triggered this in my mind was a couple of years back, or 2 years back, when Sony said that they were not going to be at E3 2019. The reason why this was so big is because a lot of people felt that Sony was a gigantic part of E3. And they very much were. They're one of people's favorite conferences. They're one of the most viewed conferences, I think, of the bunch. That and like the Nintendo Directs are the most viewed press conferences, because usually they have the biggest announcements. It's just true. They have these huge announcements that people like go crazy for, which is kind of what E3 has become about. It's less about a trade show to the whole world and more just about what's going to be announced. What is the best announcement? Now, we heard Shawn Layden, who was the former head of development at Sony and the former president of Sony as well. We heard him talk about this, talking about how the fact that E3 has changed so much. It's supposed to be a trade show, but it became a fan expo and then became a full-on, like, open to the public event. That meant that journalists couldn't get around to booths at times, influencers couldn't do it. It became almost, and this is his own words, it's not my words, it drove it to the edge of pain. It became hard to actually run this event. It became hard to traverse this event. And all of a sudden, we saw this dampened tone at E3, and especially from Sony's end and Shawn Layden's end, talking about how he wasn't a big fan of E3 anymore, and he didn't see it as being as part of Sony's plans going forward. That has stayed this year as well, as Sony has announced that they're not coming to E3 2020. Once again. Now, here's why I think that this isn't a bad decision, first of all. And it's because of Nintendo Directs. Hear me out. Nintendo can make a Direct. It is a video edited with a bunch of trailers. Maybe you'll see the president of Pokemon. You'll see like the president of Nintendo come out. You'll see the head of development of Nintendo. You'll see a director come out in the video in front of a green screen and talk to us about some video games for 45 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. It depends on how big the Direct is. And what happens after those Directs are over? They usually have some announcement that makes people go nuts. They usually have some announcement that makes people go crazy, and all of a sudden they're on the trending page. All of a sudden they have this buzz, they have media buzz, they have people talking about them, people writing articles about them, and they did not spend nearly as much money as you would on a press conference. It would cost millions more to do a press conference of that level for such an event. And because of this, people started to look to Nintendo for ways to do this. You had Bethesda doing Bethesda Land, which they didn't do all the time, but they did it 1 year, and I thought it was pretty good. Because it's just a good format, just a bunch of trailers in a row. You kind of saw Square Enix doing it as well this year, even though they had a good presentation, they had someone come out on stage and talk about it. For the rest of it was kind of just like, here's a trailer, here's a trailer, here's a trailer, here's a trailer, over and over again. And it works. It just works because people like that moment, like instant gratification of a new announcement. Even if a trailer goes on for a bit long, you know that something else is coming up straight after that again. And it's a good format, it works, and you can do it with less money, but getting more impact. Why would a company spend the money to do E3 when they can have the same effect just by doing a Nintendo Direct? And Nintendo have proven this, and Sony have kind of followed suit this. And make no mistake about it, it's a great idea. They followed Nintendo's footsteps and made their own state of play thing a 20-minute kind of like mini video where they present a bunch of games to the public. You can say it's copying, because by George, it is definitely taking a lot of influence from Nintendo Directs, but it's smart because Nintendo Directs work. They work so well, and it's the best idea that Nintendo has had. I'm gonna say this right now. The Switch is great. The Wii U was great. All of the innovations that Nintendo's done since the beginning of Nintendo are astounding. But in modern times and in the modern internet age, I definitely think the Nintendo Directs have been the best idea that Nintendo has had, and I will stand by that. Because it always works, even if they're not that great, they still get that buzz, they still get people watching, and because of that, I think that E3 is becoming less and less relevant. And of course then when they announced they were not going to be doing, Sony was not going to be doing E3 this year again, the reason why it was so big was because everyone thought that once Sean Layden was out of Sony, because he's left now, everyone was like, oh, now they're going to go back to E3. No. This is just a thing now. They're going to be doing their own events, their own conferences, kind of like Nintendo does. And here's the thing, let's be honest, Nintendo is at E3. They have booths at E3. But the conference is something that happens like after every other conference. I don't think that you can call it like an E3 conference. Even though it is Nintendo at E3, it is very much their own produced thing. They don't have a stage, they don't have this big setup, and they do it again. Once again, I'll say it again, and I'm going to keep repeating myself, with mass impact and mass stretching of their information to journalists, to people. We get all the info instantly without having to watch a 2-hour conference that costs millions to make. It's just smart, it works. And recently, in fact yesterday, Jeff Keighley announced that he will not be going to E3. Why would this be even in this video? Why would you be talking about it in the same breath as Sony? Well, because Jeff Keighley has been going to E3 and working with E3 for 25 years. He has been there in a professional capacity for years at E3. He has been presenting the E3 Coliseum, and whether you like it or not, Jeff Keighley is one of the most well put together and well connected people in the gaming industry. Jeff Keighley knows more than most people know. Jeff Keighley has all of those connections. And if he's not coming back, that is a big deal. Because it just shows more of the slow decline that E3 has been having. And we saw it last year as well with the ESA leaking all those journalists' information. That's a big freaking deal. And now this year they want to make it an influencer event. Now, I have nothing against influencers. I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, oh, I hate influencers, because I don't know them. But what I will say is E3 was founded on the sharing of information to video game journalists and to the video game public. Once this becomes a big event for people just to shoot their videos at, it just doesn't mean as much. Maybe you might get a wider variety of people watching. Maybe you might get more eyes on the video games. If it does, I will make a video and say, I was wrong. I was wrong completely. But I feel like this is a change that's being made because they are worried about the decline of E3. And I can understand why they feel that way. Nintendo and Microsoft are the two major conferences at E3 this year. You have Ubisoft, you're probably going to have Bethesda, maybe you'll have Square Enix. But if you're looking at the big three, which were Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, Nintendo doesn't do conferences anymore, they do their own Nintendo Direct. Microsoft is the only one of the big three that does a conference. A live conference. I'm not angry. I'm not upset because I do see this being good. Because if E3 is declining, that means it opens up more avenue throughout the year to have more smaller events. The Game Awards is a perfect example. This event where we can have a bunch of video games shown off just in the middle of an award show where we can all be excited about these video games and we don't have to wait all year to the next E3. We have all those Nintendo Directs. We have Sony's State of Plays now. We have Gamescom. We have Tokyo Game Show. I don't think we need every year for E3 to be the only thing. I don't want E3 to end. I want to be perfectly clear with that. I do not want E3 to end. I do not. I love E3. I love it to death. But I hope they do something that brings Sony back. I hope they do something that makes it more of a communal event once again. I just hope that this slow decline does not mean the end of E3. But at the same time, I also think the ESA need to stop banging their heads together and start working together to make some sort of solution. Thank you guys for watching. As always, you can give your thoughts on this video as well. This is just my opinion. This is just my kind of like ranting on the situation. And I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.